Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Kenya's deputy police chief steps down as outrage over the death of a detained teacher deepens. Albert Ojwang was killed in custody after having been arrested for accusing the deputy police chief online of corruption. Also, Trump may not be done with cracking down on travel options available to Africans wanting to head to the US. Washington's considering expanding its already long list of countries who this month were banned from entering the United States. We hear from our correspondent in Senegal about what such a move would mean for people there. Also, low in iron, well, camel's milk might be what you need to get you over the hump. It is 5 times richer than the mineral found in cow's milk, and Tunisian agricultural fans of camel's milk are hoping to take its appeal global. But first, Kenya's deputy police chief has quit. Eliud Langat has stepped down after weeks of protests and growing anger over the death of a teacher in police custody earlier this month who had been detained because he accused Langat of corruption. Albert Ojwang was dead just 2 days after he was arrested. Pathologists made it clear that all the signs pointed to his brutal assault. Olivia Bizo has more.
Under mounting public pressure, Kenya's police chief Eliud Langat has stepped down over his alleged role in the death of blogger Albert Ojwang. Now, Ojwang was arrested 2 weeks ago. His alleged crime, a social media post that criticised the police chief. The next day, he was found dead in police custody. Police initially claimed it was suicide, but a post-mortem told a different story, showing he was violently assaulted. That revelation sparked national outrage. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets last week, demanding justice, with civil rights groups and opposition leaders joining the calls for Langat to resign. Kenyan senators also summoned senior police officials and called for Langat's arrest. So far, 2 senior police officers and 3 civilians have been arrested in connection with the case. Investigators say the civilians were used by officers to beat Ojwang while in custody. President William Ruto has called the killing heartbreaking and unacceptable and promised justice. But for many Kenyans, those promises are simply not enough. More demonstrations are planned this week in Nairobi and other major towns across the country, with growing calls for an end to police brutality, because Ojwang's death is not an isolated case. The rights group Missing Voices has documented at least 104 police-related killings in 2024 and 55 cases of enforced disappearances.
Olivia Bizo there for us. Now, survivors of a fatal raid by gunmen on a Nigerian village say that the death toll from that attack has risen to at least 150. People in Yerewate in Buni State were still looking for the missing on Monday after it was raided on Friday. Now, the region's seen a spike in clashes between Fulani herders and farmers who have increasingly been competing for land, in part because of the fallout from climate change. Following the attack, police in the nearby city of Makurdi had to reel in protesters, thousands of whom turned out to display their anger that authorities haven't done enough to head off the cycle of violence between the rival communities. Now, in Washington, Congolese and Rwandan experts have started direct talks, aiming to lay the groundwork for a possible peace deal over the tensions caused in the region by M23 rebels' incursion into eastern DRC this year. A deal date is still a distant prospect, but whilst Rwanda, which is accused of backing the militants, is keen to take things slowly, the US is pushing for negotiations to be wrapped up quickly. Juliette Montier breaks it all down for us from Kigali.
A peace deal between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo still looks some way off. That's according to Rwanda's Foreign Minister Olivier Nduhungirehe, who said the initial mid-June target has been, quote, adjusted to the reality of negotiations. His comments come as delegates from both countries begin face-to-face talks in Washington, a first since the United States stepped in to mediate back in April. The US, which is leading the talks and Washington has strategic interests in the region, is pushing for a deal by the end of the month. And several diplomatic sources say Washington wants a clear condition, that Rwandan forces pull out of Congo. Rwanda is accused of backing the M23 rebel group, whose offensive in eastern DRC has killed thousands since January. Kigali denies those allegations and says no deal will be signed unless it's a win-win. So for now, there's no firm timeline in sight.
Congolese pilgrims cheered loudly as a late customs worker from their country became one of the Catholic Church's newest saints. Floribert Bwana Chui bin Kositi was honoured by the Vatican at a pontifical basilica in Rome for, in life, turning down a bribe to distribute rotten rice to those in need. 26-year-old Kositi was kidnapped and killed in 2007 after he'd stopped rancid grain bound for Goma, crossing over from the border to Rwanda. Now, those who knew him say that he was aware of the risks that he took and did so because it was in line with his faith.
It's a joyful feeling to be able to follow this ceremony live. We don't know how to express it. We're happy because today the Universal Church recognized him as a martyr of justice and honesty.
Those who killed him thought they had ended his life, but God Almighty raised him up, and that is our joy.
Well, Trump may not be done with cracking down on travel options available to Africans heading to the US. Washington's considering expanding an already long list of countries who this month were banned from entering the United States. Dozens more could also face restrictions, a move that would be devastating for many on the continent. Caitlin Kelly tells us more from Senegal.
The United States is weighing up new travel restrictions that could affect up to 25 African countries, including major economies like Nigeria and Ghana. A leaked internal memo from the State Department says that countries deemed of concern may face full or partial suspensions of entry if they don't meet specific benchmarks. The concerns include visa overstays and weak security protocols. Here in Senegal, which has strong trade and financial ties with the US, as well as a large diaspora, the government issued a communique over the weekend reminding citizens to respect visa rules. Countries are given until this Wednesday to produce an action plan for amending their internal immigration processes.
One could say it's a disappointment. I'm not sure if the Senegalese people approve of this American measure. Many Senegalese people have travelled to the United States via Nicaragua in recent years. I think it will result in a significant economic loss. And secondly, it's a kind of social degeneration for these Senegalese migrants who'd already left and are present on the American territory.
This comes just after the Trump administration imposed a separate travel ban on 7 other African countries over similar concerns, drawing sharp criticism from rights groups. Countries like Chad responded with then a reciprocal ban. So now some US citizens that I've spoken to here in Senegal worry they too could be caught in the middle, as the list, currently 36 countries, spans much of the continent.
That breakdown by our Caitlin Kelly. Well, France 24 has been suspended from broadcast in Togo for 3 months. The move to censor foreign media outlets comes as President Faure Gnassingbé faces increasing pushback over recent constitutional changes that could effectively keep him in power indefinitely. Critics have called the changes a constitutional coup. Well, to Tunisia now, and it is trying to churn up more interest in the health benefits of camel's milk. Its fans say that it has 5 times more iron than cow's milk, and a pasteurization factory is even opened up near Medellin as the industry ramps up to give the product's reputation a bump. Take a look.
In this experimental station in the Medellin region of Tunisia, camels wait to be milked. Here, under the supervision of the Arid Regions Institute, researchers have been able to develop techniques for pasteurizing their milk while preserving as many of its nutritional benefits as possible. Reputed to be hypoallergenic and good for the immune system, camel's milk has antibacterial and antiviral properties that can be used in the treatment of diabetes. For Dr. Amel Zboui, a researcher at the institute who has been studying its benefits for 20 years, camel's milk has enormous but little exploited potential.
We need to work together to get scientists, doctors, biologists and pharmacists to work together to find a form of this milk that can be sold as medicine or a food supplement.
The project was launched in 2023 by entrepreneur Latifa Fifrita, who was looking to invest in her region and promote a local product. She based the project on the work of Dr. Zboui and her team. At first, it was difficult to convince the farmers to sell her their milk, but she says today there is a real relationship of trust.
We currently produce between 350 and 500 liters a day, and our aim is to hopefully reach 1,000 liters a week within the next year and a half to 2 years.
The milking station also serves as a training center to show farmers the advantages of mechanization. A simple pot milker can produce 6 to 7 liters per day per camel, compared to just 1 to 2 liters by hand. For the Institute, promoting the mechanization and accessibility of the camel milk industry will not only add to the product's value, but also help create new jobs.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now, but thanks very much for joining us, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.